This video is going to be about balance and how it is critically important to try to achieve balance when we are in this time of stay-at-home orders and all of this togetherness. We have to find ways to be balanced together. Hi, my name is Sean Palmer, and for the last 18 years I have been an attorney practicing exclusively in the area of family law in the Harris and Galveston County areas of Texas. So this idea of balance is best exemplified by a young lady I spoke with a little while ago now, and she was calling me up to ask me about divorces. Now, I offer 15-minute consultations where I try to relay as much information and get as much information as I can in that short period of time. But in the case of this young lady, we went over a little bit because we were trying to figure out what it is she was actually needing. Because some attorneys will just do whatever you tell them to do. You wind them up like a tin soldier and they'll go in that direction. That's fine. You have to have that. But there is another side to the equation, and that is counselor at law, where you try to analyze what the client's or potential client's situation is and try to come up with an actual solution for them. So that's what I was trying to do with her. And as we were talking, I discovered more about her. She was in her mid-20s, and she was an executive assistant to a real estate broker. And she was on maternity leave. She had just had a son, and her husband was a marketing consultant who worked from home. So they were all together already when the lockdown orders came as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. So they are all together now, and she then gets furloughed from her job. So she's now suddenly finding herself being a full-time stay-at-home mom with her husband working in an office about 10 hours a day. So the reason she was calling me was because she wanted to look into getting a divorce, because she was feeling that her husband was not helping and was not sympathetic, and she was very frustrated with both him and the entire situation. So as we began to get into it a little bit more, we talked some more, and she talked about the fact that she was feeling resentful both to him, and if she was being honest, which she eventually did, was telling me that she was feeling guilty about her role as being a mother, and that she didn't like that role. She felt guilt when she was feeling that she was not being fulfilled by just filling in that mother role. And so we talked a lot, and then at the end of it all, I kind of tried to help her out by giving her a little bit of perspective, again, on this topic of balance. So I tried to frame it for her and let her know that, look, number one, you didn't count on this. This is not something that you had decided that you were going to be doing with your life. You want to have a baby, but then, also have a career, but suddenly you're forced into this situation. And so there's, your life's out of balance now. Then you are forced to become a stay-at-home mom. You assume the role of the primary caregiver, and then your husband assumed the role of the breadwinner, and was supposed to be the balance, but it's not feeling balanced. He's not affected at all by this situation, whereas you're the one whose life has completely been turned upside down, and now you're having to do the getting up at night to do the feedings and to change the diapers, and you're playing with the child 24/7, and you just don't have any break from it. So her frustration was because of, she was feeling this was not fair, and this was out of balance, and she resented her husband for not helping out. She said, hey, I want you to help me out with the child more. And he would for a couple of days, but to kind of go back into his routine. So she was thinking that maybe divorce might be the only solution that she could have. Well, I asked her to slow down and take a little longer view on things and take some perspective on that. Now, that might be a little bit odd for a divorce attorney to try to talk somebody away from a divorce. But again, I believe that it's my role to be a counselor and try to find solutions for people, whatever direction that may take you. And sometimes it's not a legal solution. Anyway, back to the story. So she was feeling guilty because of, she wasn't satisfied in her mother role, and then she was resentful of her husband for not helping out. So I, again, tried to give her a little perspective and say it's perfectly natural that you would feel resentment because of the situation. A lot of people are angry right now. A lot of people are resentful right now, and that's part of the whole thing. But you have additional resentment on your husband because of the fact that you tried to help him out, or you tried to get help from him, and he's not meeting that need. I first wanted to let her know that her feelings were very common, and that I hear that all the time. I hear that like every other day. Somebody's complaining about the fact that their roles have been upended because of the coronavirus and all of that. But the other thing is that I told her I thought it was kind of odd that they had automatically assumed these two gender-specific roles, that she should be caring for the child all the time and he should be earning the money. She said, well, he's the only breadwinner right now. I said, well, isn't your job as the caregiver of the child just as essential to the survival of your family as him winning a paycheck? And she said, well, yeah, I agree to that. Okay, well, then if that being the case, then why do you feel that your role is any less than his? And why did you just kind of assume that you both had to do all the tasks separately? Because in finding balance, sometimes it's not a one shot. Here I'm going to put this end of the scale and that end of the scale, and then there's balance. It's more like a tightrope walker. A tightrope walker is always shifting, is always trying to shift their weight to stay on balance, and that's kind of what balance is about in everyday life. You constantly have to renegotiate to achieve balance in your marriage and in your family life. And with the fact that we are now been placed in one house, we no longer have institutional things to keep us on our routines. So we have to come up with new ways. So you can't go off to work every day and then come home and have that sort of that automatic balancing of things where you're interacting with other people and then you're interacting with your family. You have to institutionalize this balance consciously on your own. So the balance of the roles was something that they needed to achieve. She was also, she was feeling very guilty about the fact that she was not satisfied with sitting on the floor with her son and playing with him all the time. And I said, look, I'm a single dad too, and if we're frank with each other, it's not always magic moments. Sitting with your baby may be a magical experience for you, or it may just be mind-numbingly tedious to have a little drooling baby that you have to watch all the time, 24/7. And I suggested to her that maybe her husband was also experiencing tedium in his job. Maybe we could mix things up a little bit, because a lot of the stuff that she was doing for her boss in her former job, administrative-wise, she could help him out with. And then he could, in turn, take a break from what he's doing and go and play with his son. Because sometimes tasks are heavy or sometimes they're light, but we all crave variety. If they could find a way to mix up their roles a little bit, that might achieve the sort of parity. But her just saying, hey, help me out with the baby, it wasn't gonna cut it, because she wasn't communicating with him her real need. Her real need was for a break from the baby, but not necessarily a break from all things. And as it was, to him, he was probably thinking that she wanted him to assume half of the child rearing role and to be 100% the wage earner. Maybe she could help him out with his calendar while he goes and sits with the child, and then they get some variety and a break from what they were doing before. So in the idea of balance, you try to come up with new solutions to finding ways of breaking things up, but you're still renegotiating kind of back and forth. No reason why she had to take on one role and he had to take on all the other role. Maybe he, for example, I gave him another option that says, well, maybe he could, instead of working 10-hour days, 5 days a week, why couldn't he work 8-hour days and work 6 days a week, or 7-hour days, whatever, 9-hour days, 9-hour. it doesn't matter because they're all not going anywhere. They're not going on vacation. There's really no weekend. So if he can free up a couple hours to help out with the child, and then maybe she can take a couple hours to help him out with his work so they both can get their tasks accomplished. They're working together as a team. Anyway, achieving balance is never easy. It's a constant battle, just like a tightrope walker. Like, they're constantly trying to find that equilibrium. But in the end, it's a lot better than the consequences, which is falling down. But sometimes people go right to the last solution out of desperation. They're in psychological pain, and they just they kind of jump on that solution. But finding somebody who will offer some perspective to help you weigh better your options is a good idea to do. So if you're thinking about getting a divorce, and again, this is coming from a divorce attorney, so I'm genuine. If you're thinking of a divorce, think twice, think 3 times before you cut those ties. See if there's any way that you can get around the solution, the problems that you're having with just some solutions. And sometimes you might need some different perspective, and go out and get that perspective. If you can't get it from any other source, or if you want a completely impartial perspective, you can always give me a call. We'll help you out. But let's be good to each other, and let's try to get through this period of time. If divorce is the only solution, then you can call me, but it is not necessarily the one solution to fit all things. You can actually make things much better with a little perspective and a little bit of balance. Okay, have a good one, be good to each other, and we'll see you next time.